वासुदेवाय।
ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यां
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरये।
ततो जयमुदीरये।
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं भागवतसेवया
भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके
भगवति उत्तमश्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी।
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय
कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय
देवकी नन्दनाय च
देवकीनन्दनाय च
नन्दगोपकुमाराय
नन्दगोपकुमाराय
गोविन्दाय नमो नमः।
गोविन्दाय नमो नमः।
तं तं नेष्यमानो कृतनिर्वेशम् यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति तथा एनं दण्डपाणे किल्बिषम् नेष्यमानो कृतनिर्वेशम् यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति तथा एनं दण्डपाणे सकाशं कृतकिल्बिषम् नेष्यामो कृतनिर्वेशम्
नेष्यमानो कृतनिर्वेशं
यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति।
यत्र दण्डेन शुद्धति।
Listen. तथा एनं दण्डपाणे सकाशं कृतकिल्बिषम् नेष्यामो कृतनिर्वेशम् यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति तथा एनं दण्डपाणे सकाशं कृतकिल्बिषम् नेष्यामो कृतनिर्वेशम् यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति. Word to word meaning and translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Tata, therefore, enam, him, dandapaneh, of Yamaraj, who is authorized to punish. Sakasham, in the presence. Krita kilbisham, who has regularly committed all sinful activities. Neshyamaha, we shall take. Akrita nirvesham, who has not undergone atonement. Yatra, where. Dandena, by punishment. Shuddhyati, he'll be purified. Translation: This man Ajamila did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraj for punishments. There, according to the extent of his sinful acts, he will be punished and thus purified. Purport: The Vishnudutas had forbidden the Yamadutas to take Ajamila to Yamaraj, and therefore the Yamadutas explained that taking such a man to Yamaraj was appropriate. Since Ajamila has not undergone atonement for his sinful acts, he was to be taken to Yamaraj to be purified. When a man commits murder, he becomes sinful, and therefore he must be killed. Otherwise, after death, he must suffer many sinful reactions. Similarly, punishment by Yamaraj is a process of purification for the most abominable sinful persons. Therefore, the Yamadutas requested the Vishnudutas not to obstruct their taking Ajamila to Yamaraj. We'll chant the praise. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatan Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Varijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauradvise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shradha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanastute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nilachala Nivasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannataya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Welcome you all to today's class. So currently we are discussing on the section of Ajamila's life history. This is actually the first chapter of the 6th canto. As you know, in the beginning of the 6th canto, Sukadev Goswami was asked a question by Parikshit Maharaj. Okay, what was the main question? Sixth verse, huh? O greatly fortunate and opulent Sukadev Goswami, now kindly let me know how human beings may be saved from having to enter to hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pains. And then he questions the process of atonement in hellish planets. The 9th verse, Maharaj Parikshit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general. But because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Now, here we see this whole canto started with the question of Parikshit Maharaj. He asks, okay, now in the end of 5th canto, in between the 5th canto towards the end, then when he is explaining about the universe, then incidental description about the hellish planets comes. After that, Parikshit Maharaj, being a very wonderful devotee, is naturally compassionate to everybody. Now, how the living entities are suffering in such terrible pain in these hellish planets, how can they be delivered? So that's the natural question he had. But then he questions the very purpose of the atonement in hellish planets. Is it anyway useful? Or his question is, even after knowing that there are such punishments and all, people still commit sinful activities and they are forced to commit. So, what is the use of such an atonement? Sukadeva Goswami glorifies him for asking this question, and while giving answer, then he describes the pastime of Ajamil. And as you have all heard about the Ajamila, he was such a nice Brahman family he was born in, but at the same time, he just a momentary lapse by watching a prostitute, then he gets attracted and he commits so many sinful activities later, and towards the end of the life, fag end of the life, when he is above on his deathbed, then the Yamadutas come to take him away. So when the Yamadutas come to take him away, then the Vishnudutas are also there. They come and stop him, stop the Yamadutas. And describe, just because he's chanted the name of Lord Hari, Lord Narayana, his all sinful activities, all sinful reactions are nullified. Now this surprises the Yamadutas. First of all, who are these personalities? There was nobody who could ever question our authority. And we are following the rules that are meant for us, given by our Lord Yamaraj. He is the personification of punishment. So we have never been questioned. And who are these people who are even questioning us? And it's not just their saying, they seem to have much more dominance and authority and seem to be much more powerful than us. So immediately they were frightened. At the same time, they were in awe and reverence to seeing their aura. So then they started giving explanation about why Ajamila can be taken to hell. Because all his life he performed so many sinful actions. So, naturally, as this verse says, this man Ajamila did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraj for punishment. Therefore, according to the extent of his sinful acts, he will be punished and thus purified. So, in this material world, every person is trying to enjoy independently from Krishna. And because he wants to independently enjoy from Krishna, then his original nature of Satchit Ananda is covered. The nature of the soul, which is Sat, eternity, Chit, full of knowledge, and Ananda is bliss. And because the soul is disconnected from the Supreme Lord, who is the infinite abode of Satchidananda, now because he is separated from it, then his consciousness get covered. Just like the sparks of the fire, if the small sparks separate from the fire, its potency of light and heat is not retained. It just goes off. Similarly, the living entity's consciousness is also covered. And this job is done by the Lord's external energy, Maya the Shakti. She is the same Shakti who reveals as Yogamaya the Lord's form and all his opulences to the devotees. But because the living entity is stubborn, that he doesn't want to serve the Lord, he wants to enjoy separately from the Lord, and the same energy comes to this material world as Maya Shakti, and first she covers the knowledge and bliss portion of the living entity. Now, having covered the knowledge, then the living entity is so enthusiastic to enjoy the material world. Then she provides various options, 84 lakh options in the form of 84 lakh species for the living entity to execute his material desire, to try to enjoy. Because this is not the natural condition for the soul, it's artificial. That's why the entire material world has to be created. We have to get an external, subtle and gross body, and we have to be given the entire material world with all the various facilities so that we can try to imitate God. Now, the problem is there is not one single living entity. He wants to be God, 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 I want to be God. So how this will work if everybody wants to be God? Then certain laws are applied in this material world. Okay, you want to enjoy, you want to enjoy, you want to enjoy, then there are rules of how you can enjoy. If you perform pious activities, then you will be benefited. Then you can become Indra. You can, if you're not performing sinful activities, just normal pious person who is executing his duties properly, then he can go to Pitriloka, where he is under the jurisdiction of Aryama, who is also one Devata. Higher than Pitriloka, there are all the other Vidya, there are other planets. Then higher than that is Swargaloka, where Indra, who is the God, who is the Lord of all demigods, he is there, and one can enjoy all the opulence of the Swargaloka, where the body smells very wonderful like a lotus, and one can enjoy somaras and everything, and there is no any problems of, begetting children and taking care of children and all those things. Full enjoyment and no responsibility. No responsibility means there is only responsibility they have is they have to abide by the scriptural rules of what is meant by. But the whole Svargaloka is meant for, enjoyment. Just like people earn all throughout the year and they go for vacation. Vacation time there is no concern about job and all. You are in the mood to enjoy. Just get up in the morning, dress up, go out, frolic around, play, go for movies, eat in hotels, no need to cook. There is no any daily obligations like that. That's what Svargaloka is. Vacation for a longer time rather than just a weekend. So the entire mood is to enjoy. And higher than that is the Prajapati Loka. There also there is enjoyment for those who are not satisfied just to be enjoying in their results. They want to be the controllers of the entire material world. You have a little more administrative mood of setting the rules for the material world. Then you become Prajapati. And higher than that is Brahmaloka, where you're the chief engineer of the material world. Brahma and people who are there are all, some or the other way, part of the scene. They are the Vedas personified who establish rules of how the material world will function. So, in the material world, there are so many different planetary systems and everybody has different level of potency. But the underlying principle is the same. Everybody wants to become God. Means enjoy separately from God. That's why they're all here. But still, those who act under the jurisdiction of the Lord, principles established by the Lord, they are in the higher planets. They are called Suras. And those who don't act according to the principles established by Lord, they want to concoct their own principles, they become Asuras. So they are given the lower planets. Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Taladala. They are following rules. They are not disturbing others. They don't perform sinful activities. They do austerities. But they want to establish their own rules. They are not ready to help the Lord in functioning the material universe. But those who break the principles in one way or the other, cause harm to the other living entity, then they enter into hellish planets. And there they are under the jurisdiction of Yamaraj and they are tortured by the Yamadutas. Now who become Yamadutas? Anybody of you know? Who become Yamadutas? If you like to torture other people, you will become, the person who is suffering in the hell. You have pious credit and you like to torture the other people. How does that go well? You're too disturbed by people who don't follow the rules. Yeah? You follow the rules, but you're too disturbed if somebody doesn't follow the rules. Understand? And so they are like, what you call, there is optimism and pessimism. Optimism is you look forward, okay, how to positively create an impact. So you don't bother if somebody is creating negative impact, you don't bother so much. But those who are too much bothered by that, They are given that service. Okay, go. You are given the, and they're all very, very. They never break any principle. Otherwise, you are not given that position. You understand? They have followed the rules, but they're too disturbed by others not following the rules. Then they are kept under the, guidance of pure devotee, and then they're, so they were given the opportunity. Okay, now you went out your frustration there by torturing. Anyways, so if you see the entire consciousness of these Yamadutas is this, like, how can this fellow, he's such a sinful guy, is breaking all the principles. So they immediately want to take him, they have that aggression. Take him and he has to be punished. Otherwise, there will be chaos in this material world. Nobody will follow rules. That kind of. But we see from the next chapter onwards what the actual Siddhanta is. From the first canto, as the first verse itself of Bhagavatam says that Bhagavata is Amala Puran. There is no place for any Kaitava Dharma. So, from the first canto itself, Bhagavatam establishes what is devotional service and what is not devotional service. And first to 5 cantos especially establish that in very clear terms what is devotional service and what is not. From the 6th canto onwards, you start getting little more complex, and especially 7th, 8th, 9th. It distinguishes between pure and mixed devotional service. Within devotional service, there is pure unalloyed and there is mixed devotional service. So, for us, devotional service means act piously, do no bad to others. At the same time, worship the Lord, and because He is giving everything. So devotional service is more on the platform of duty. And even if there is some bhakti involved, but still it is still within the framework of material mode of goodness, the pious activities. This canto breaks that box. Ajamila has committed so many sinful acts, and just by chanting the name of Narayana once, all his sinful activities, all the reactions can be nullified. How is this even possible? Where is the justice? Where is the justice here? He has committed so many sinful activities. He has robbed people. He has cheated so many people. He did all obnoxious things. Right. So, how is he allowed to get away with not being punished? And the Yamadutas are very rightful at their position. And they are got that body because they want, to see that the rules are applied. They are naturally disturbed. And here is the epitome of the situation where somebody who is like, they are fully fixed. This fellow, at least for some hundreds of years, we can torture. They thought like that and they went there. Now somebody else comes and says, no, everything nullified. All his sin. So how disturbed they would have been. So, how is this even possible? That we will see in the next sections of Bhagavatam. But the very main principle is the process of bhakti is completely independent. It is supremely independent, just like the Lord is independent, bhakti is completely independent. It doesn't depend on karma, it doesn't depend on jnana. That's why by taking the name of Lord, no matter how much karma, it can be nullified. Because that is the independent. Whereas karma and jnana depend on bhakti for its function. So, no matter how much good karma or bad karma is there, unless one is having a tinge of bhakti in it, it will not function. There is no concept of good karma without taking the name of Lord, without doing some kind of service to the Lord. There is no concept of good karma. Otherwise, suras and asuras both are same. The only difference between the demigods and demons is demigods abide by the principles given by the Lord and they have some respect for the Lord. So, some way, directly or indirectly, they are performing bhakti and their followers are performing bhakti. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. Yes? Which chapter? Huh? Which verse? Seven point 20, 21. No. Kamestesthir hitagjana prapadyante anya devata tam tam niyamamastaya prakritya niyata swaya. Yes? Though I am the person to be worshipped, because of karma, people worship the demigods and then they establish their own rules. But next verse Krishna says what? I give them the faith and I give them the result as well. So, unless Krishna is involved, doesn't work. The living entity neither will get faith and nor the results of the actions. So, only because of bhakti, then the entire material world can stand as have a structure and it can stand on the principles of dharma and all. Based on dharma there is artha. The artha which is collected according to dharma, that will give you happiness. But the artha collected according to adharma will only give one suffering. But the dharma stands on the principles of sadharma. Without sadharma there is no dharma. If you remove God from the picture, all the dharmic principles, only a matter of time, go away. Best example is Hinduism. The moment we remove Krishna from the picture, it's about family life, staying together, having relationship with each other, and you kicked out the Lord, and people don't accept vanaprastha, don't take sannyas. What is the need? My family is all in all. So when you don't accept vanaprastha, then children, what standard you're setting for your grandchildren? They see, okay, he is always here. He doesn't perform any austerity. And the children don't accept brahmacharya. And there is no brahmacharya, vanaprastha, sannyas, everybody is a grihastha. And what is the purpose of staying together all together? There is no any austerity taken for the sake of Lord. Then from the grihastha, it's only a matter of time, you'll become a grihamedi. So when you remove the Lord, and service to him, everything collapses. As we see only in a matter of 1 or 2 generations, from such an elevated position of following the principles of pure devotion, we fall back into worse than Mlechas and Yavanas. Mlechas and Yavanas, at least in their place, they have their rules. They follow external rules of cleanliness. But our guys, we don't even follow that. They are better than most of the Indians. Because their bad principles, whatever, they are functioning in that for many, many generations. So they at least have some functional rules. We neither follow this nor follow that. So that is the danger of not having bhakti as a central focus. Now here we see, if you put bhakti as central focus, no matter whatever lapses happens in life, you can quickly come back to the position, as we see in the case of Ajamila. He didn't plan, he didn't start practicing brahmacharya with a desire later on he will enjoy prostitute. He was following sincerely what his father gave, the principles, and at one point he got distracted. So he was not a kripana, he was not what you call pretender. What you say? What is the more appropriate word? One who says one thing, one who acts in a cunning way. Diplomatic is... okay, he's not cunning. What? Kapata. In Sanskrit word is, he's not a kapati. So he's not cunning, like, your desire is something else, but you come and act as though you're humble, this, that and all. Duplicious. He was not duplicious in his practice earlier. But at certain point he got distracted. And that's the only quality to attract the mercy of devotees. Bhakti is given to anybody and everybody except for a person who is duplicitous. When one is duplicitous and pretentious, have a cheating mentality, he will never get the mercy of Lord. But for all other kind of people, mercy is available. And it depends on the, compassion of the Madhyamadhikari Bhakta who is approaching them and giving. So, Bhakti is supremely independent. No amount of material inebrities, the material disqualifications will stop you from progressing on the path of spirituality. So, but at the same time, unless one becomes free from the desire for sense gratification, one doesn't get love of God. Ajamila, if you see this section, so he got very freely. So then he got immediately love of God just by taking the name of the Lord once, still being attached to his children. No. Vishnudutas just relieved him from suffering in hell, but they also disappeared immediately after that. Then he has to go and purify himself in order to qualify to go back to Godhead. So though it is a very nice, privilege, but at the same time, if we use it, for the sake then to be callous and careless in practice of bhakti, you get stuck up in material world. Then you can be stuck up one lifetime, 100,000 million lifetime. So just not being duplicitous is not okay. You have to move forward. We have to give up material desires. So the process of bhakti will become dynamic only when we are moving out from anartha nivritti stage to up Give up all desire for puja la pratishta, the morning prayers, which we chant Sikshastakam, na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmani ishware bhavatar bhakti rahaitu kituvai. This is very, very difficult. It's very easy to say, very poetic, but will be tested at various levels. Initially, it's just only the gross, and when we are not so famous, it's very easy. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur comments on Nectar of Instruction verse, where the pride, he says, giving up false pride means somebody who has the position or things, accolades where he can be proud about, and he is not proud, but still not proud, then that is giving up false pride. If you haven't accomplished anything in your life, if you are humble, that doesn't prove that you are really humble, because you are not tested. The point is, your humility is not tested. Somebody who is not having anything, the sweeper on the road, will naturally be humble with everybody because he can get some benefit through them. That is not real humility. Humility is when you have all the reasons to become proud and you are not proud. Then you are really humble. So, the point is, I lost the flow. Okay. The point is anarthas, giving up of anarthas. It's not that, okay, right now when you don't have any, when you are brahmachari, not having any position, any social status and all, it's very, things appear very easy. But with time, when you have to take up surveys and various challenges come, that time you are tested. So we should be very, very careful and observant, because it takes a lifetime to get over all this. So every point of time we have to check back whether I am doing this for the sake of puja la pratishta, or I am doing this for the sake of service of the Lord. When you start bhakti at young age, things are very straightforward. But some of you have already passed through that student life, got married, then things become little more confusing, dynamic. So many other aspects, more factors get involved. So then you have to be even more careful. So only when we pass through this stage of anartha nivritti, then come to the stage of nishtha. That's the stage you are completely convinced that bhakti is the only process by which I can go back to Godhead. I don't need anything else. I don't need any material identity. I don't need any money. No karma, no material karma, no jnana. It's not required. And unless that conviction is there, there is no chance of real ruchi. After nishtha stage is what? After ruchi is? Why are all, the 9 stages of bhakti. After ruchi is asakti. So the taste in devotional service and the attachment to the Lord doesn't develop. And unless we are developing these things, we haven't got the glimpse of what is real love of God. Yes? So this canto then starts breaking all our ideas of devotional service mixed with karma and jnana, because something drastic has to be there to break. So these examples in the Shastras of particular persons are there, they are completely truth, and they are like the standard, the ones, the case studies which stand out to show the power of pure devotional principles. Here, the power of holy name. Yes. So all the rules of material no, level of dharmic principles are all there. And the principles of pure devotional service all there. They always go together because one is dependent on the other. The principles of pure devotional service are the source and shelter for all the material principles. So there is no problem. It's not that, the other kind of religions where good and evil, there are two different. So the devil and God, they have to fight with each other. Sometimes the devil prevails, sometimes God prevails. That is not the real philosophy. Whatever devil you see in this material world, it's still working under the, direction of the Supreme Lord only. So there is no question of any ambiguity for a practitioner of bhakti, because you have taken shelter of the highest source, and which is the only independent. Lord is the only independent person, and bhakti is the only independent process. All other are dependent. Yes. So that's why in this canto this is brought about, and as an answer to the question of Parikshit Maharaj, that okay, atonement doesn't solve the real problem of living entities being relieved from the material world. What solves? Practicing bhakti. It is not dependent on anything. And by the practice of bhakti, one not only give up sinful activities, but the desire to commit sin is also completely uprooted. When there is no desire to commit sin, that's when you are, perfected in giving up. Hare Krishna. Any questions? All good? In one class, one Maharaj mentioned about what is the mentality of Yamadutas. So, you can say it's much speculation in one sense, but it's based on. He basically mentioned that Yamadutas are the ones who are pious people, but at the same time, they are disturbed by people not. Yes, that's what he told. But as I said, optimism and pessimism. But the devotees, they act in a positive way. Your disturbance should not lead you to dysfunctionality. Devotees are disturbed that people are not, but they try to have a positive impact. That's why they preach. But for some people, if others don't follow the rule, that make them dysfunctional. You understand the difference between both? That's what. Then they have to act in order to destroy. And they are still under the guidance of, Yamaraj, and they don't cross their barriers. When they were questioned, they immediately took off. So they are not punished for that. They don't gain any sin for that. But the kind of service you want to do based on your mentality, that's what I'm saying. Finally, they got the best service because of their mentality. They'll be there in devotees also. Somebody did something wrong there. Go on and on. He cannot be forgiven. You have to do this. Boom, boom, boom. You say, okay, leave it, let's go. ahead. Let's preach positive, create positive. No, if somebody is creating negative impact, he'll destroy everything. They are correct in when it comes, when you speak from the principles of dharmic rules. But ultimately, you have to see from the highest perspective is to reform the living entity and so that he can go back to Godhead. So, seeing that higher one, you can be relieved from the disturbance. But some people cannot. Am I correct, Prabhu? In the yeah. So Yamadutas are also like that. But they are all, we need to respect them. They are all proper followers. Anything else? Yeah, the knowledge. If your knowledge is not covered, then how you will come into illusion, thinking that you are the body. Before thinking you are the body, you should stop thinking you are the soul. So that's why that knowledge is covered. Ananda, because the Sat feature need not be, the covering is, knowledge is the thing that needs to be covered. And anyway, Ananda is the Guhya knowledge, like it's a higher. Bhakti and then Prema, it's considered the secret knowledge. Chit is knowledge, then the most secret of all the knowledges is Bhakti to the Lord. So the bliss you experience is from that. Without the knowledge, then how will you perform? So that's why both are covered. This is mentioned in Paramatma Sandarbha by Srila Jiva Goswami. There he gives explanations about Jiva Maya. The Maya Devi has two functions. One is Jiva Maya, first covers the Jiva's chit put knowledge, and then Guna Maya. Then she provides all the facility where the same thing as Prabhupada calls covering and kicking potency. First cover, then kick him into the material world. Yes. 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 The chit is covered. But when your chit is covered, already there is no ananda. But the sat feature is the Brahman, that experience is still there in the jiva. That's why even in the material world, no matter where we are looking for that eternity. There it is mentioned the chit is covered. Chit and ananda. Accordingly I present. Now the sat, because we are choosing the material body and material, obviously then you are in the world of achit, but you're still looking for always being eternal, looking for permanence within the temporary place. But Tattva Vibhrama and what is the other Vibhrama? Ananda Vibhrama is also there. Tattva Vibhrama and you have confusion about your Tattva and your confusion about what gives you Ananda, pleasure. So I'll provide that quotation. These are the two problems for Jiva who is in this material world. Long back I referred. This is not from this is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. This is not Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's book. No, not that. That's what I'm saying. That's not in that. Tattva Vibhrama, this Bhaktivinoda Thakur said some other place. So these Vibhramas are there. But the sat feature is there is nothing like mentioned like that. You can see in that angle. why it is the Chit knowledge cover. Yeah. Okay. Any other comments, Prabhu? We'll end here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, शिल प्रभुपाद की जय। और
Hare Krishna, what is any question? As usual, any question from online? संग बताइए।